More than 90% of its population has fled, much of it is in ruins, tens of thousands have been killed, and its strategic importance has been belittled by the heads of the Pentagon and NATO. But Russia and Ukraine are still fighting for the small town of Bakhmut. After nearly 8 months of trench warfare, Ukrainian troops were outflanked on 3 sides, Kyiv's supply lines were damaged, and the Russians controlled nearly half of Bakhmut. However, the Ukrainians had promised to double up on the city's defenses, even as both sides suffered heavy casualties. Some leading Western military analysts have suggested it may make sense for Ukrainian forces to withdraw to new fortified lines of defense, but Kyiv is showing no sign of doing so for now. Military commanders said their own counterattack, backed by newly delivered Western hardware, was not far off, but stressed the importance of containing Bakhmut temporarily. A recent video footage shows the Ukrainian Armed Forces seizing Bassein, a major position of the Russian invaders in the direction of Bakhmut, taking prisoners and destroying several intervening forces. The unit's press service reported on this on its own page on the social network Facebook, publishing the relevant video edited from footage taken by the unmanned aerial vehicle and the helmet action camera of the apparently commander of the strike group. The Ukrainian subversive and reconnaissance groups were small in numbers, but corrected by UAV operators and supported by mortar fire. However, it is likely that the mortars had already connected after the fighting started, making it clear that the Ukrainian fighters were able to sneak up on Bassein unnoticed. At the end of the video, you can see about 24 people intervening escaping. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Armed Forces completely destroyed the Russian invaders' T-72 tank and BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle in the Maryinka area near Donetsk. The other BMP-3 was damaged or intact, left by the attackers next to the destroyed tank. Presumably, its operator adjusted fire from an unknown weapon on an armored assault group in an empty field. Recently, Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of Russia's private army's Wagner Group, threatened to leave his position next to Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast if he did not get more supplies from the Kremlin. Prigozhin reportedly told Telegram-based outlet Wargonzo that he sent a letter to Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu with an ultimatum, should have given Shoigu until April 28 to decide. The chief mercenary reiterated his oft-voiced concern that Wagner might be seeing his last days as a company. Prigozhin has frequently complained about the lack of ammunition in recent months. Ukraine's main military command said in its daily update on Sunday that its troops had repulsed 58 Russian attacks over the last few days along a section of the front that runs from Bakhmut through Avdiivka and to Maryinka further south in the Donetsk region. If Bakhmut falls, Chasiv Yar may be in for another Russian attack according to military analysts, although it is on higher ground and Ukrainian forces are believed to have built defensive fortifications nearby. Yevgeny Prigozhin, founder of the Russian Wagner Group, who frequently claims unverifiable success, says his troops had advanced some 100 to 150 meters on Bakhmut, leaving less than 3 square km of the city in Ukrainian hands. However, he said he had lost 94 soldiers. Meanwhile, Serhiy Cherevity, spokesman for the Eastern Forces Group of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, said that Russia is far from seizing the road of life from Chasiv Yar to Bakhmut, which supplies food, medicine, weapons, and other things necessary for the military and civil. There was a fierce battle going on, but there was no panic or lack of control. Everyone acted according to a predetermined scenario. The situation was completely controlled by the General Staff. Plus, we saw all the enemy's intentions and prevented them with fire. All this in the complex made it possible to guard Bakhmut even further, Cherevity added. He also said that the Russians were forced to engage the paratroopers in the battle at Bakhmut. because the Wagnerians were finished. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also recalled the early days of the Russian invasion, saying in an interview on Saturday that he carried a gun and would have fought to the death with his inner circle had the Russians overrun his base in Kiev at the start of the war. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported on April 30 that Russia had lost 190,510 troops in Ukraine since the start of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes the 470 casualties suffered by Russian forces over the past few days. Ukraine also said it destroyed 2 Russian tanks, 6 artillery systems, and 6 vehicles in a day. Those figures have not been verified. Meanwhile, Ukraine remains in control of the main supply route to Bakhmut, a military spokesman said on Saturday, as the head of Russia's mercenary Wagner Group threatened to withdraw part of its troops from the eastern city if Moscow did not send more ammunition. Rob Lee, who was on the same trip, said on Twitter that while there were still valid reasons for Ukraine to keep Bakhmut, its ability to inflict heavier losses on its adversary had weakened after Russian troops captured the northern flank in February. As a regional transport and logistics hub, Bakhmut will be useful to Russian forces, though that will depend on how much of its infrastructure remains intact. More importantly, it will be a springboard for Russia to advance in the 2 big cities it has long coveted in the Donetsk region, Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. Ukraine's preparations for the impending counteroffensive will come to an end as the military undergoes Western-supplied weapons training, Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov said on April 28, as quoted by media outlet Ukrainska Pravda. To this day, Ukraine has reportedly received almost all of the military supplies, including combat vehicles, that NATO promised them. The equipment is intended to support Ukraine's anticipated spring counteroffensive, which some U.S. officials believe could begin in May. The result of the counteroffensive is expected to be a critical turning point in the war that will determine whether Ukraine reclaims more of its territory or is pressured by allies to meet Russia at the negotiating table.